This week, we're asking questions like, what is language and what does it mean to know a language? And to do that, we're going to be drawing from some insights from the field of linguistics. In this video, I'm going to provide an overview of what linguistics is as a field and some of the subfields within linguistics. And then in the subsequent videos, we'll dive a little bit deeper into each of these subfields that you read about for today. So linguistics is, simply defined, the scientific study of human language. Linguists are interested in a range of different questions related to language, including how languages are structured, how languages are used, and how languages change through time. And the field of linguistics has often thought about this question, what is language? And the chapter that you read for today answered this in a few different ways. I want to build upon that by sharing a few things for you to keep in mind as you read about the different ways to think about language that we can learn about through the lens of linguistics. So first and foremost, language is a uniquely human ability. Each baby and small child develops language without conscious instruction. They don't sit down and learn language by somebody speaking it to them. They learn it through picking it up, through interactions with adults and with other children, some instruction, but it's minimal. And we know that the amount of direct instruction that children receive when they're learning a language can vary greatly, and yet all humans, barring some sort of cognitive disability, will learn how to speak a language. We know that animals can communicate, but the complexity of our language and the ways in which we use it to communicate is uniquely human. Language is also a combination of signs, sounds, and/or written symbols to express ideas. I think this is a helpful definition to work with when we think about language. Linguists refer to this as a grammar. So they're using the word grammar differently than how you may have traditionally heard that term defined. So not to talk about or refer to rules, like, when to put like I before E except after C, and remembering to put periods and how to structure sentences. Grammar, when linguistics use the term, refers to kind of the whole collection of signs, sounds, and symbols that are a part of a language. And we use that combination to express different ideas. Language is also rule-governed and systematic. Languages do evolve. Languages are living things, but they follow particular rules. And so those rules can change, but as we learn a language, we learn the rules that language follows. And all languages, whether they are officially deemed languages or dialects, have particular rules that they follow and are systematic in their design. Language is also importantly a means of communication that allows us to accomplish different purposes. We use language to express to somebody how we feel. We use language to inform someone of something. We use language to persuade. So language isn't just words that we form into sentences, but language is something that is used very purposefully to accomplish different communicative goals. And finally, building upon that, language is a dynamic social practice. Language doesn't have meaning apart from the ways in which that we use it. And we'll talk about that when we discuss pragmatics and how context changes the way, the meaning that language can have, because language is something that is social, right? It was developed as a means to enable us to communicate with one another. And so language itself is a dynamic social practice. All right, so with that framing in mind, let's talk a little bit about what we're going to be diving into in the next few videos. So there are 5 or 6 major subsystems of language. The book talks about 5, but I'm adding in phonetics here just so you can see it in the visual. And those are phonetics, phonology, morphology, syntax, semantics, and pragmatics. And we'll talk about each of these in the videos. Phonetics is the one that Wainwright doesn't talk about in the chapter, but it's the study of speech sounds in general, so kind of the different sounds that are made, that the human mouth can make, whereas phonology looks at sounds in particular languages. So we'll talk about that when we get to phonology. So here you can see kind of how the study of linguistics bridges out from beginning with sounds, moving into words with morphology, thinking about how those words are fit together when we talk about syntax, semantics, thinking about the literal meaning of the phrases and sentences that we're creating, and pragmatics, think about meaning in the context, in specific situated contexts. So we'll talk about each of these areas in subsequent videos. And I like this visual too, as just another way to think about these subsystems and how the study of linguistics is structured. So some linguists study sound. Those are the ones who study phonetics and phonology. Some study structure, looking at morphology and syntax, and others focus on meaning, looking at semantics and pragmatics. And each of these areas has something to teach us as future teachers or as individuals who care about multilingual learner education. Has something to teach us about how languages are learned and how languages are and the different component parts of language. So I hope you enjoy each of the sub videos that follows, and I look forward to seeing your application projects as you synthesize all of your learning in a comparative and contrastive analysis activity.